Hello, hello, hello. Today, we're going to go over gearing up in Throne of Liberty. This is a relatively simple process. I don't want you guys to overthink it. I don't want you guys to overcomplicate it. I'm going to break it down as best as I can. So how this is going to function is there's going to be three sections of the game. You've got the early game best in slot, mid game best in slot, and then late game best in slot. For those of you that played World of Warcraft, this functions in the same realm and the same aspects and the same principle. So heroics are your early game kind of entry level dungeons where you're going to get your early game gear, and then that'll allow you to do higher level content, which will be the mid gear, right? The mid game. Think of that as your mythics, right? You get your heroic gear and then you upgrade it to the point where you can start doing mythics appropriately, and then you start doing mythics. You get all your mythic gear, upgrade that, and then you start doing the end game content, which is the raids and stuff. This game functions on the exact same functionality and principle. It's the same thing. Now, before we talk about the ways to get gear, I want you guys to understand that don't just go grabbing anything and everything that is a different color or purple or blue. Think of your stats. I really want you guys to understand that your stats do matter because it will affect your gameplay. So for me, I'm gonna explain my build. Keep in mind this is different from yours. If you're running an entirely different build, this is not gonna apply to you, but the same concept of paying attention to the stats and understanding your build does apply to you, just not my exact stats and reasoning for picking the stats. So I am a great sword and sword and shield user, aka the Crusader. My stat priority is gonna be strength, perception, dexterity, in that order. Now I'm gonna explain to you why these stats matter. Strength. This is a huge one because of HP. Everything else is just an added bonus. The reason HP matters is because we have this passive in our skills called Vital Force. If we go over here to Vital Force, this basically gives us an increase on all of these things per 100 of max health. So increases magic, melee, and range hit chance by 1.52, skill damage boost by 0.25, and stun chance by 0.425 per 100 of max HP. Or health. So the more HP we have, the better. And then we also have this robust constitution, which increases our HP by a fuck ton. So, so that is why strength is important. Not so much that it increases our damage and increases X amount of other things. The HP is why it's so important. Now to go on to the substats like perception. Now the reason perception is important is it increases the accuracy of attacks, CC effects, and enhances time boost abilities and increases max damage and min damage. Now everything else is great, that's cool, but the important thing is the increased accuracy on CC effects. This is a massive important thing because once again, we go over to our skills. I'm gonna go ahead and move myself over here for a second. So if we look at our skills, we have two skills called Guillotine Blade, and then we have Death Blow. Now, if we come over here to the specialization tab, the spec tab is really something that you want to pay attention to for your builds as well. But just for the sake of example, on my build, Death Blow, I have this specialization down here called Damage Increase. Damage dealt to a prone target increased by 30%. So if I prone a target, they are going to take more damage from Death Blow. So I knock them on the floor, and the combo essentially would be, let's see here, what is it? It would be Stunning Blow, and then you would do Ascending Slash. So what happens is Stunning Blow CCs them with a stun, and Ascending Slash, if we hit them, they will get proned. But they will only get proned or whatever if they're stunned. So I cannot prone the target unless I stun them. So you do Stunning Blow, Ascending Slash, Death Blow. Boom, blow up the target. Or alternatively, you can use Guillotine Blade. Now, Guillotine Blade is functioning on the exact same principle. If the target is prone, you are going to do more damage. So you do the same combo, Stunning Blow, Ascending Slash, Guillotine Blade. That is why perception is important, because we need to be able to hit our CCs really quickly, really easily, and they need to land often, because that's where our burst DPS is going to come from, is from Death Blow and Guillotine Blade. Everything else in the Greatsword kit, damage wise, not that crazy. I would argue Frost Cleaving and Devastating Smash are probably the other abilities that are pretty good. Valiant Brawl's not bad either, but it's kind of a PvE skill, so it really just comes down to Frost Cleaving and Devastating Smash. And then since I'm using the Sword and Shield as well, it's going to come down to a few other factors like Shield Strike, and then we have buffs that we can do. So Counter Barrier, for example, this gives us more defense, but it also increases our damage here. So if we move this again, I have this skill right here where where if I use this specialization, while counter barrier lasts, the base damage increases by 5%. So this is a big one. So that is why your stats matter and why it's important you pay attention to your stats, because if you understand what you're looking for and what you need in your build, you can apply that to your gear. So since HP is very important, I want to stack as much HP on my gear as possible. So early game, for example, I'm going to go ahead and start building everything that has a shit ton of HP. So if we take a look at my gear, helmet, health, max health right there. And then this cloak, not my best in slot, so this is irrelevant, but whatever. My chest piece, max health. My gloves, max health. My leggings, max health. My boots, max health. My necklace, a bunch of defensive stats. My bracelet, more defensive stats. My ring, max health. My other ring, more melee defense or just melee evasion, and then also hit chance. My belt, max HP. So you can see a trend here. My HP, I'm just basically min-maxing my HP, and then my sword, HP, my other sword, HP. I'm stacking HP out the ass. Now there is a point where I think that you'll probably end up getting diminishing returns, so maybe switching up some stats would be a good idea. A good example of this would be the Blade of the Resistance. I don't necessarily think that this is the best in slot. I think the Resonance Blade is actually better. However, this is a good alternative that will still net me good stats regardless. So now that you guys kind of understand how stat priority works and why you should pay attention to the functionality of your stats, let's talk about actually crafting your gear. Okay, so we have a few different methods. Let's talk about crafting first. So keep in mind what I'm going to explain for the weapons, same process for your armor and your accessories. You're just going to craft them, right? So crafting gear, I would not recommend you do this unless you absolutely have to. And I'll explain why in a moment, but early on, the only thing you should be crafting is your green weapons. And even then, I wouldn't even say you need to, but the quest is going to ask you to craft some gear. So just craft whatever is appropriate for you. For me, I crafted the Legionnaire Greatsword because it has max HP. Obviously, for, you know, I explained why. It's pretty much best in slot. Just because it's best in slot and you can craft it doesn't mean you should. And the reason you shouldn't is because of the lithograph. So if we come over here to the lithograph, if we turn in, let's say, a couple of our weapons or some shit, right? We can, I wouldn't even say this. Let's see here. If we turn in, it's not even lithograph. Where the hell is it? Codex. It's the codex. That's what it is. So right here, the codex, the second codex that you do in the adventure log here, it allows you to select a, it allows you to select the weapon. So the Legionnaire Greatsword, instead of wasting a weapon lithograph on this shit, just complete this codex and then boom, you can select it from the codex. So you can do this for pretty much like a shit ton of other things. So there's plenty of other codexes in here that will give you weapons of whatever, you know, regard. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna come down to like whatever it is that you're looking at. But in general, you can do codexes, you can do the lithographs. And the lithographs are really easy too, because all you're going to have to do is craft green gear. Now, this is where I would say crafting makes sense. Crafting is important for this reason, because if you see here, if you craft 4 greens and then you give them to the lithograph, it'll net you a blue. Now, this may be your best in slot, it may not be your best in slot, but overall, a blue piece of gear is better than a green piece of gear. No matter if it's not best in slot, it's just going to be better because it's going to give you more item level, which is going to help you get into higher tier dungeons, because people are weird on this game and they want you to be like 1800 item level or 2000 item level, whatever you want to call it. People are weird and they put their dungeon groups on lock and they expect you to be a certain item level. So if you have full green gear, and even if it's +6, you're probably still going to want to get blue gear, no matter if it's best in slot or not. Luckily for the Crusader, his gear is pretty much mostly best in slot from the lithograph. Like here, the best in slot for a Crusader is the Broadsword of Resistance. You get it from the lithograph. You also get it from the quest line. So in general, you don't really need to do too much in terms of a Crusader, right? Like you just kind of get lucky. But this is how you can get some blue gear without having to craft stuff. And I mean like craft blue gear. So you just have to craft a bunch of crappy green gear and then you just give it to the lithograph and you'll get some decent blue gear. Now, for those of you that might be like, okay, so I need to craft stuff. How do I get lithographs? How do I get the armor lithographs? What you can do is contracts. So the contract manager here, I'm in Castleton, mind you, like if you talk to this this guy, he doesn't tell you shit. He's just like, he doesn't do anything. But if you go to other spots on the map, so for example, I do a lot of my contracts over here at the I'm trying to remember, where the fuck is it? Oh, it's right here, the Ruins of Terrain. I do all of my contracts over here, so I get my contracts in Watcher's Post, and then I come over here to the Ruins of Terrain, and then I do the contracts. I find these to be the most simple and the most easy, so that's why I do it that way. And then whenever you complete your contracts, you can go to a contract coin merchant, and then you can come over here, and then let me move my character right there, and then right here you can scroll down to the bottom here, and then you will see that you can get the lithograph weapons, accessories, and armor right here. This is where you can buy them. I wouldn't say you need to do this, because at some point throughout the quest line, you're just going to get a shit ton of lithographs, so it's not going to be that complicated. But if you do run out of lithographs and maybe you need to, you know, craft something in order to get your best in slot blue gear, then this is an alternative that you can do. And then you just do contracts until you get enough coins in order to get your, you know, quality lithograph stuff. Also, I would recommend getting to 1500 so you can select your weapon. So pretty much your best in slot weapon here, I wouldn't even say it's best in slot, because I don't think it has the best in slot like actual weapon, but your mid-game weapon, like for me, the Heroic Broadsword of Resistance, that would be what I want, because it has HP on it and health regen. It is by no means the absolute best in slot. The actual best in slot would be Duke Magnus Provoking Warblade, so that would be what you would prefer to have. However, Heroic Broadsword of Resistance is a nice alternative that will get you to a point of, you know, comfortability. It's not that bad. But if you want to get your blue gear and you need to use it in order to get your lithograph stuff, that's totally fine. You can just start crafting crappy greens in order to put them into the lithograph, so you can start getting blue gear, and you can get a full set of blue gear. Like you can definitely do it. Like these Greaves of Resistance, these are trash. These are absolutely trash for me, but if I needed blue pants, I would get these, but I don't, unfortunately. Instead, I have the Trousers of Resistance, which make more sense. And keep in mind, just because like you're a Crusader or you're a heavy plate user or whatever you want to call it, that does not mean you have to use those like things, right? Like this is clearly heavy like gear, and it has more defense on it because my Trousers of Resistance are cap out at 190. I assume that if I were to upgrade these Greaves of Resistance, it would probably have more higher melee defense and range defense because of how like simple and early it is, right? So it's just going to be heavier armor, so it's going to have more of a defense. Just because it has more defense does not make it better. I would much rather have 190 melee defense and range defense along with my HP and melee evasion. That makes more sense. Do not worry so much about the melee defense, range defense. It is important, but not as important early on. Best in slot for sure is Trousers of Resistance for my class specifically. Later on, I'm going to want to upgrade to Shock Commander Greaves, which gives me DR strength, and then I want to have the trait with max HP and whatnot. So that would be what I want to upgrade to. But even still here, you can even tell my trait is max HP 150. I got really lucky with these Trousers of Resistance by having a good stat priority, and then I also got a good trait, which gives me more HP. So in general, this is good. And these aren't the only pants that are available, mind you. Like here, the Trousers of Resistance are in here. They're in here. So as you can see, the max health is 485, melee evasion 50. The trait locked until you do the thing. So there you go. So if you needed the Trousers of Resistance, they are in here. There's multiple pieces in here that are pretty good, so just keep that in mind. Now the next thing is the cloak, right? Now the cloak, I need this cloak too. So if I wanted to, I need to craft a 4 cloaks in order to get this. And we're gonna go to the armor smith. All right, and it's this guy right here, Rachel, oh girl, whatever the fuck. Now I'm gonna want to craft the green cloaks. Okay, so in order for me to do that, I need to have quality magi thread and then quality magic powder. So I need 5 of each in order to craft each one. So I already have a green one, so I basically need 1, 2, 3. So I need to have 15 quality magic powder in order to craft the last 3. And then I also am going to need quality magic thread. Same thing, I'm going to need about 15, 14 because I already have 1. And then I'm going to need 4 or 3 lithograph armor pieces. Or lithograph armor, whatever, and then I can make my I can get my Deadeye cloak. So what I would do in order to resolve this issue is I would go over to the contracts and then start doing my contracts, get my lithograph armor, and then get my magi thread. Now for the pieces of gear, you can go to your inventory or wherever you have your stuff stored. I have mine stored in my actual storage because my inventory was looking bananas and I was not about it. So you can go to the storage manager if you have your stuff stored in here. And what I did is I put all my shit in here, and all I need is to basically get my magic thread. And then if you come over here to the, or down below here, you'll see these materials right here, rare base material selection chest. There's also a green version of this right here. So you can open these and you can choose the quality magi thread if you really need to. So if you have a fuck ton of these and you need to craft them for early on, these are totally okay for that as well. So for me, I would need the magic thread. You can open these, choose the magic thread, because I basically already have my best in slot blue gear. All I got to do is just select the magic thread, so that way I can go ahead and get my blue cloak that I need, and then boom, I'm done. Same thing goes if you wanted to craft your ring, right? So my ring that I would prefer to have is the Violent Signet, and that's the ring that I really want, and I can get it through the lithograph. So if I go to the lithograph here and then I scroll over to the green section, we're going to scroll down over here to the blue gear and then look for the ring. So this thing right here, the Violent Signet, I want this. I would replace my Ring of Precision with this Violent Signet, which would give me attack speed plus 2% and then dexterity 3. This is okay. My Ring of Precision, to show you guys what this does, it gives me hit chance 20 and then melee evasion 50. This is okay and best in slot until you get this Violent Signet. Then this is best in slot. So what I would do is I would craft up the 4 rings. I already have one, so I would just craft up the 3 rings and then put them in the claim reward tab, and then boom, I get the Violent Signet. Now I have my 2 blue rings, and then I get the cloak, and then my cloak's done. And then overall, you can go ahead and do the same thing for your bracelet if you really need the bracelet. I'm not exactly sure what the bracelet gives because I have not looked into that. I think it's this. Yeah, it's this one here. So this gives me max HP and then silence resistance, bind resistance. Now the HP is okay. I do think that the Bracelet of Conquest, in my opinion, is actually better because of the melee evasion and melee endurance. The HP is nice, but I think we're at the point where diminishing returns is happening, so it's not that big of a deal. So I would much rather have the Bracelet of Conquest. So I wouldn't even worry too much about that. But for you, that might be different. That might be different for you. You might want something else that's entirely different. But Bracelet of Conquest for a Crusader build makes the most sense. Now, a few other honorable mentions on how to get gear too. If you wanted to get other pieces of gear, you can go to the Silas's Abyss, which is somewhere. Where the hell is that shit at? I forgot where it is. It's over here, I think. Is it over here? Yeah, it is here. So this Silas's Abyss, this is a PvP area at night, and during the day it's a PvE area. You can still PvE even at nighttime. It's just it gets kind of crowded here, so you will get ran up on. People will try and fight you here, so just keep that in mind. But during the day, you can actually farm the mobs without any PvP interruption. And in this place, it's really cool because they drop blue gear, they drop green gear, they drop all kinds of shit down here, and it's really cool. So this is one open world dungeon. There's another open world dungeon that I forgot the name of, but you just, whatever, it doesn't matter. You go to both of these open world dungeons, and then you can start getting gear inside there, and then you can apply that to your builds, or you can break them down for mats. If you want to know how to break things down for mats, go to inventory, press right thumbstick, or if you're on PC, just click. I guess it doesn't really matter. Now you come over here to the dissolve tab, and then when you click on an item, for example, I needed quality magic powder to craft some of the green gear, so I would break down this helmet, and then I would get the quality magic powder that I need. The same concept goes for everything else. If you want to, you need purple shit, you break this down and then you do the exact same thing. This helmet here is not best in slot for me, and it doesn't have any of the stats that I'm looking for. And it also has magic evasion, which is a really shitty trait. I don't really need this. I'm not going to break it down, but just like, this is not what I need. Did I just get disconnected from the server? What the fuck? You know what though? That is fine. That's fine. We got disconnected. It is okay. But at the end of the day, that's how you gear. It's really easy. It's not that complicated. Again, early game, mid game, late game, understand your stats, go over your characters, whatever business, and then you're good. use your lithograph, use your codex and all of that stuff. And then crafting, I would use that to get stuff in your lithograph. I wouldn't use crafting to get the things that you need, because the rare lithographs are kind of hard to get to a degree. So don't worry too much about that. Just get the blues from your lithograph book, and then that's going to be your better option. So yep, hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, I'll try and clarify down below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.